What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to episode 12 of the 2023 Halloween special. If you haven't yet seen the previous 11 episodes, I've linked them right up above. Please go and check those out. I've had a ton of fun doing them. And tonight on the Halloween special, we are going to be talking about the film Terrifier 2, directed by Damien Leone and released in 2022, starring Lauren Lavera and David Howard Thornton. After being resurrected by a sinister entity, Art the Clown returns to Miles County, where he targets a teenage girl and her younger brother on Halloween night. You might be wondering why I just jumped to Terrifier 2 and didn't do a video on the first Terrifier film. Originally, I was going to. I did plan to do videos for both of these movies in this special, but as you guys know, if you saw the short that I posted a few days ago, I'm pretty sure, I had to cut some episodes just for time convenience and time management and things like that, because originally I was going to do 20 episodes, but I had to cut it down to 15 for time's sake, and also just because of the fact that I didn't want to be uploading episodes for a Halloween special not in October, and I wouldn't have had time to get 20 videos out all within the month of October if I had stuck to that number. But had I stuck to all 20, I would have discussed the first Terrifier film in an episode, which would have been a weird thing because I'm gonna say this now, I'm not actually a massive fan of the first Terrifier film. I think it was a great proof of concept for an absolutely relentless character, but as a film itself, it's nothing to write home about. Which actually leads me into my first point about Terrifier 2, and that is that this film is better than the first in pretty much every way imaginable. This film had a bigger budget than the original Terrifier, and it definitely shows, though Damien Leone does wisely, in my opinion, choose to stick to the signature look and the signature cinematography style that was established in the first Terrifier film, and for me that's a very positive thing because I actually do really enjoy the look and the cinematography of these movies. I like how it's purposely made to look very low budget, grindhouse, like very cheap. It really grounds the world of these movies, in my opinion, but it does still have a very filmic quality to it. Almost every frame in this movie actually would make a really good photograph, like in an art museum or something. This movie also, like the first, has an awesome soundtrack. The soundtrack in this movie absolutely slaps. There are so many bangers on this track list, and I do listen to this soundtrack just on my own time from time to time. Also, like the first film, this movie in virtually every way is a throwback to 1970s and 80s grindhouse slashers. A genre that isn't very widely known by the masses, and it's not like there's any movies in that genre, at least not many, that are considered all-time classics or anything. But if you're in the film community, and especially if you're a part of the horror film community and you're just a part of that conversation, you know about grindhouse. It really left a substantial mark on the cinematic landscape, which is obviously what the first Terrifier film from 2017 got so famous for, because it was so shockingly violent and it's all done practically. That's the main draw of these films. Namely, one kill in the first movie that was just so gratuitous and out of nowhere and just, I mean, very impressive. I don't think there's any denying that. It was very impressive for the budget that they had, and just being this random movie that came out and then all of a sudden it has something like that. If you've seen the first Terrifier film, you know what I'm talking about. And even if you haven't seen it, it's one of those things where, like, if you've heard of it, you know about that scene. That scene is fucked, man. Like, that scene fucked me up. One of the things that is so much better about this movie, though, is the fact that it actually has a thought-out storyline and plot to it, and takes a lot of time to establish good characters. The lead character in the movie, who also kind of serves as the final girl for this franchise, I hope, is played by Lauren Lavera, and her name is Sienna. I actually am a big fan of this character. She is very quickly becoming one of my new favorite final girls in the horror genre. Unlike the first movie, this movie actually has very good performances, namely from Lauren Lavera, but I thought everybody else did a fine job. I really do love Sienna as a character. She's very likable, she's very talented, admirable, she's determined, she cares about her family. There's just a lot of very endearing aspects to her character that make it so easy to root for her. But this family also has a pretty tragic backstory with their father that also helped me to care about them, and honestly I'm kind of shocked that I'm saying anything of this nature about a Terrifier film, because the impression that that first Terrifier movie leaves is that these movies aren't going to care about story. They don't care about story or characters at all. The entire point is just to show off insanely bloody, insanely gory kills, which this film also has, and we'll definitely get to that in a second. But this film also legitimately tried to have good, well-written characters and an intriguing story behind all of this bloody mayhem. This film is also pretty well directed. I definitely think it's better directed than the first. It's a very watchable, very entertaining movie, and for the most part, the pacing never really falters. But I do say for the most part, because there are some scenes in the movie that I think could have been cut down. This movie is 2 hours and 18 minutes long. The first Terrifier was barely even an hour and a half long, if even that. I'm pretty sure it's only like an hour and 20 minutes or something. That's crazy. The first movie only being an hour and 20 minutes, and this one is like 2 hours and 20 minutes. That's insane, but I mean, I'm happy for Damien Leone and the fact that he got to fulfill his vision for what he wanted this movie to be. I mean, as I imagine, the studio probably did try to get him to cut it down, but nope, he got to make his vision, and it's 2 hours and 20 minutes of Terrifier, so I'm happy for him. And honestly, it does work for me a lot too, especially because there are aspects of this story that are very ambitious and a little more epic than the first Terrifier film. So for the most part, I do think the long run time works, but there's still some time in this movie that I think could have been trimmed down quite a bit to improve some of the pacing, but overall I think it works extremely well. Now let's talk about Art the Clown, because he was definitely the best part of the first Terrifier film, really the only great thing about it in my opinion, aside from the practical effects and gore. This movie, I would say, definitely solidifies Art the Clown as an iconic horror villain, especially for the modern day. This guy doesn't fuck around, dude. Like, the kills in this movie, it's like they specifically set out to top the kills in the first film, which were already insanely shocking to people, and it's basically all anyone talks about when it comes to that first movie. And when you watch this movie, it's just like, the first movie, it's hard to imagine this, especially if you've seen the first movie and you know the content in it, but the first film does not hold a candle to the violence in this movie. This is legitimately the most violent film that I've ever seen in my life, and I don't think it's going to be topped for a very long time. I mean, I thought Evil Dead Rise was violent, dude. This film, holy shit. There is so much blood, so much gore. The kills are insanely disturbing and very well done, I must say. The prosthetic and makeup and visual effects work in this movie is mind-blowing. And I know that this movie had a bigger budget than the first, but still, the budget of this movie, when compared to the budget of most widely released feature films, is very small. So the fact that they were still able to make it all look this good with absolutely, basically no CGI at all, no CGI ever used for any of the kill scenes, that's insane and insanely impressive. Art the Clown and the way David Howard Thornton portrays him brings this character to life so disturbingly well, and obviously the costume and the makeup work that's been done to him also does a lot of the heavy lifting. It feels weird to say this, especially considering the content of this film, but Art the Clown can also kind of be hilarious. Like, I hate to say it, because again, the content in this movie is insane. The things that he does to people is just pure evil, which is obviously the point, but he still has a lot of physical comedy, almost Charlie Chaplin type stuff that makes him entertaining to watch despite how unforgivably and irredeemably evil he is. It's very dark comedy for sure, but it is there. There are scenes in this movie that are designed to make you laugh, and you are going to laugh, and you're going to feel weird for laughing. And honestly, I kind of love that. This film, as many have talked about, does make an attempt to build a mythology and a lore around Art the Clown as a character and what's really going on with him. And I honestly love it. A lot of people are iffy about that part of the movie. They kind of wanted it to be a little more clear, but Terrifier 3 is in the works, and if this ends up being a Terrifier trilogy and the third film really sticks the landing, I think that's going to erase that criticism for a lot of people when it comes to this movie. But because of that, and because I have so much faith in Damien Leone as a filmmaker when it comes to this type of film, I don't have an issue with it at all. I really like the intrigue that it builds in this movie, and I do actually think that this movie isn't as ambiguous about that lore and mythology as a lot of people make it seem. Maybe you just have to do a little bit of research on certain things after you watch it. I don't want to get into details just in case you haven't seen the film. I wouldn't want to give you a hint that could lead you down a rabbit hole that would ruin the payoff of it in this film, but all you need to know is it's very well done in my opinion. Another thing about this movie that just gives it a leg up over the original is that there's actually hope in it, and a lot of that comes with the fact that they actually make an effort to set up intriguing characters that we care about, that are well acted and well written, and putting them into this journey and sort of like having an actual legitimate like hero's journey arc for Sienna throughout the film. It gives this semblance of hope amongst all of the gruesome shit that Art the Clown does. And this all builds to a third act that is absolutely riveting. You actually have somebody to root for, and you want to see them succeed, and that leads to a lot of very satisfying payoffs, and a scene in particular in the last 15 minutes that I lost my shit the first time I watched this movie. I was like, what? They're going there? Okay. They're going there, and they're making it work. That was the even more surprising thing about it, the fact that they took such a risk and then they actually managed to make it work. The last 15 minutes of this movie are so good. So good. Easily my favorite Terrifier content that we've ever had. And a lot of it is also because the intrigue of the mythology that they build about Art and possible connections that he has to the characters that we're following in this film, particularly Sienna. It was just insanely well done, and I thought that the payoff for it worked so well. That being said, this film is very ambitious, being 2 hours and 20 minutes long, trying to build all this lore and mythology that it knows is not going to click with a lot of people, attempting to have characters with a complex backstory and trying to put some sort of arc and narrative into a world in which Art the Clown exists. That's no easy feat. I do not envy Damien Leone that task at all, but one thing you cannot deny about these Terrifier films, no matter how you feel about them, is that the people who made them are extremely talented and very passionate and good at what they do, at least from a technical level. There's a reason these movies are so hyped up. There's a reason this film in particular was so insanely successful. I really think it'd be wrong of people to downplay the effort that has gone into these films, and this film in particular, which is the better of the two. It's honestly really surprising to even be sitting here saying this stuff, but I honestly do believe it. And I did, but like, be warned, this is a very violent and fucked up movie. I feel like I'm downplaying it, like, even by using that terminology. Namely, one kill in the movie that literally, when this film came out, made people throw up in the theater, made them pass out, gag, leave. It's insane, and it does live up to it. And it's a scene that every time I sit down to rewatch this movie, I'm loving the movie, and then I realize that scene is about to happen. I'm like, okay, like, I gotta take a deep breath, because it's very well done, but it's just, it's insane. It's like, it's more messed up than what the writers had going through their heads when they were writing Seven. So yeah, just be warned about that. But I love this movie. I love the way that it was done. So much better than the original Terrifier, which was already a good proof of concept for a character that they really flesh out more in this movie and give more lore and mythology to and make very, very intriguing. I'm very excited for Terrifier 3, and I'm very interested in where they're going to take this narrative and these characters, who I do care about, and I'm excited to see where they end up, where they go, and new journeys that they take. So without further ado, let's go ahead and rate Terrifier 2. That rhymed. Call me the real Slim Shady. I'm going to give Terrifier 2 an 8.5 out of 10. Guys, thank you so much as always for tuning back into the 2023 Halloween special. Look forward to episode 13 of that special coming to you very, very soon. I will see you in the next video, and until then, keep writing, keep shooting, and keep editing.